not entertained!
Are you telling me you built a time machine? What about DeLorean?
The Statue of Liberty is kaput. It's concerning.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
Welcome to the Cine-Siblings podcast, where two brothers and sometimes a guest draft their top 5 in movies in cinema. I'm James.
And I'm Ian. And I'm confused why you went first, but...
And I'm Stan.
Yeah. Yes, we have a guest. We have a guest here. It's his first time. Well, we'll introduce him. This is my friend Stan. You'll see him down there if you're watching on YouTube. And Stan, just introduce yourself and plug your band, which you can find on Spotify, right?
Yeah, that's a thing. I'm Stan. I have a band. Forgot that was a thing for a moment. Backreel, Backreel. You can find us on Spotify. Yeah. I'm also I live in New Orleans, and I know Ian and I know Jamie.
Sweet.
So,
and you're sort of a art and cinematography nerd, right?
Yeah, I like lots of stuff, including movies.
Okay, yeah.
I got an art degree, so I'm the authority here. So.
Right.
I have an English degree. That means I can pretend to be authority on anything.
But we're two sides of the same authority coin. Ian has no authority.
None.
It's true. None. Except for I watch a lot more movies than my brother does.
Wait till that.
Okay.
All right.
James, we are drafting what?
Today we are drafting superior sequels, and that is sequels that are arguably better than the original movie in the franchise, or at least measurably improves upon it in some way. So that's all up to our opinions, and it's up to you guys whether or not you agree or disagree. We always love to hear from our listeners, so after the draft, be sure to let us know how awesome I did and how crappy Ian did. And also, just to clarify the rules, we are not including reboots, but the sequels to reboots are fair game. Also, we decided that initial team-up movies are out. Ian?
Well, okay, sure. Yeah, I'm excited for this because there's a lot of really good sequels. Then my list is like some of my favorite movies are sequels, apparently. So as I was making my list, I was like, oh, well, yep, like for sure. And there's one big one that I haven't I haven't watched yet, mainly because of its length.
Like rewatched or watched initially?
Initially.
Okay.
All right. Well, we always like to start off with the game to see who goes first. Stan, are you familiar with the game?
Yes, the game that you'll play on the other one.
Yeah, actors categories.
Yeah, categories.
All right. I'm shuffling
I'm
the
familiar
deck.
with the game.
And the person is Amy Adams.
Crap.
Stan, you're our guest, so name an Amy Adams movie.
Superman, Man of Steel.
Okay.
All right, catch me if you can.
Is she in that?
She is.
Nocturnal Animals.
The Fighter.
Okay.
Enchanted.
Is that her? I get mixed up with all.
You're
sorry.
stalling.
Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
What is that name? Contact? That's not the name of that movie. What's the name of that movie?
You can't get Molly to help you.
Contact was Jodie Foster.
No, what the heck is the name of that movie where she got the circles and they speak with the aliens? God,
That's Contact, and
that's not Contact. That's one of my.
those are the rings with Contact. But I think that's a.
Yeah, I think I lost. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up. Do you know what?
I know what it is. I know what it is. So I'm still in.
Justice League.
Arrival.
Wow.
She was in The Office. That doesn't count. She could guest start on that one of those episodes. I'm out.
Did I win?
Crap.
I won.
Crap.
All right. Sweet.
Arrival.
Arrival.
Once Contact was in my brain, there was no going back.
Thanks, Stan, for getting me there. because the next thing in my head was Sharp Objects, and I could not get it out of my head. It was really good, little miniseries though. All right, cool.
I really wanted this
round
first
one,
pick too.
Round one, numero
Round one?
uno. Are we getting into it?
Yeah, it'll be Ian, Jamie, and Stan, and then for round 2, it'll be Stan, Jamie, Ian. We'll do our snake draft.
Our snack draft. All right. So let's get into round one.
Round 1.
And my first round, number 1 overall pick, Ian selects The Empire Strikes Back.
Jacked.
Is this on your list, Stan?
Yeah, but I was expecting to not win that one.
All right. So I wrote, for everyone I selected, I wrote a little spiel of why it's better than the original. So why is it better than the original? I mean, this movie just has everything in general. I mean, but comparing it to the original, the storyline is better, I think. And it really opens us up to this bigger lived-in world that we were introduced in Star Wars. I don't think the stakes are necessarily higher in the film, but the emotional stakes are. I think the cinematography is better, the effects are better, and it really includes one of my favorite shots of all time is, the silhouette of Vader on the stairway in Bespin, and the Force is strong with you. But
you are not a Jedi yet.
Thank you. And of course, one of the most iconic movie moments in history with Luke.
No.
I'm your
father.
All right. So, spoiler alert.
It is. It's one of the most iconic plot twists.
What happens? Yeah, it's one of the biggest plot twists of all time. So I think, and the bad guys win, right? So you don't get many movies where the bad guys win. So that is why I chose it, and that's why I think it's better than the original Star Wars or Episode 4, A New Hope, whatever you want to call it. Stan, you got any thoughts?
I agree, and I'm glad that you chose that first. I was betting on your nerddom to override your good judgment.
This was my number 1 pick too.
Wow.
Which is a little odd. It's not actually my favorite Star Wars film. I still like A New Hope better, but it does improve upon it in a few ways, like in the battle scenes, Hoth versus the Death Star assault. I think it's, and certainly with the technology of the day, doing a white backdrop when you're doing the models and the blue screens and everything, that's pretty bold. But the dueling scenes, the sword fighting choreography, Obi-Wan confronting Vader just doesn't hold a candle to Luke's confrontation with Vader. And but really the whole thing, it builds on the hero's journey of Luke Skywalker in a really satisfying fashion, but it really presents opportunities for our heroes to be heroic and still failing in spite of it. So, you talked about the bad guys win, and that's really important for the film, and it makes it a really fun sequel.
Sweet. I agree. Or I don't like A New Hope better, obviously. Empire Strikes Back is my favorite movie of all time. But, Jamie, it's your first round pick.
I'm going to go then with what is probably my favorite movie of all time and take Return of the King from the Lord of the Rings franchise.
Stan is mad?
No, I'm not mad, but that was unexpected. I literally did in my head what I thought y'all would pick, so I could strategize, and that was one of my later picks because I figured it'd be safe.
No, certainly not. Not from me. I'm much more of a Lord of the Rings nerd than a Star Wars nerd by leaps and bounds, or a Tolkienite, I guess. But while I love Fellowship of the Ring, and probably Fellowship of the Ring is probably my favorite of the books, I think the film improves upon the original in scope, and it's because it's far more encompassing as a grand epic. And it's really kind of to be expected because it's a continuation of a long story. And so in some ways, it's not really a sequel in like the classic movie sense. It's really the third part in a continuous narrative. And, I think the Battle of Pelennor Fields, which is really one of the climaxes of the film, because it's got like multiple climaxes, it's got some better moments than Helm's Deep in the Two Towers, but really the big moment in that one is that the Ride of the Rohirrim, where Theoden is like he brings the Rohirrim to break the lines of Mordor and lift the siege of Gondor, and this I think is probably my favorite scene in all film. It's like using Ian's phrase, goosebumps every time. It's the now for wrath, now for ruin, and the Red Dawn, and they're all chanting death. That is probably my favorite scene in all cinema.
All cinema. Wow. My favorite scene. My bad. Go ahead.
Good. Yeah.
All right. My favorite scene is probably in that movie is the death of the Witch King. Is when Eowyn slays the Witch King. I like you said, goosebumps every time. I think this one is better than Fellowship, though.
Yeah, I agree. Molly's like behind the camera, like making faces at all of y'all's opinions about Lord of the Rings. She is a uber Lord of the Rings nerd as well. And her like we were arguing about earlier because we were talking about sequels, and her favorite of the three is Two Towers, which she's just wrong objectively, I think. But
concur. I concur. Do you concur?
I don't concur.
No, Ian doesn't concur.
I'm with Molly on this.
Nah, you crazy. It's boring. The ends just put me to sleep every time.
Also, the most departures from the book, I think.
But that doesn't necessarily matter when it comes to quality of film.
True.
Yeah. Anyways. Stan is your first round pick, and I have a guess of what it is, and I'm going to write it down.
All right. Have my strategy notes giving you insight into what your guess will be?
How long does it take you to write?
Well, I had to turn the page. All right, I'm ready. Okay. So select your film and see if I was right.
Number one, not stolen from the beginning. Easy. Not only best sequel of all time, not only the best movie better than the sequel of all time, but one of the best movies of all time, Godfather 2. Yep.
I wrote it.
Yep.
All right. Before we get into this, I have not watched this movie.
Shit.
Oh, listen. You
wanted to do a cinema podcast, and you haven't watched Godfather 2?
I was gonna watch it today. It's so long, but 3.5 hours long. I was gonna watch it today. Stan, you showed me the first Godfather a while ago, and I was like, boring.
Oh my gosh!
But I was like,
I'm related to this.
I was younger, right? So I wasn't in the space of mind to watch the movie yet. I watched it again the other day, and I was like, I texted you, Jamie, and I texted you, Stan, because I was asking if you'd seen the Godfather Coda, the recut of Part 3. But I was like, it's insane how good this movie is. So my only thought is, I've seen the first one, I haven't seen the second one, but I don't understand how Part 2 is better. But I can't wait to watch it. Instead of watching it today, me and Emily tore down 10 pounds of crawfish and had some king cake. So
look at it this way: Godfather 1 is really just like the prologue to Godfather 2. Like it's like Godfather 2 is where the real story happens.
Right, but don't you get like Robert De Niro as Don Vito in the past and stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Backstory and it's so good.
Okay, so if y'all are going to talk about spoiler territory.
We don't gotta go there. You watch it. I'll save it. Watch it. It's worth it. Best. Okay. But there's interesting thing about doing this. Like there are. No, I'm not gonna spoil anything.
Okay. Cool.
There are great sequels, and there are movies like are we? I have to decide how I'm measuring goodness. Is it how good is it objectively, or how much better than the first movie is it? So. I just kind of came at it from both ways. Godfather 2 is objectively not only better than the first one, but just one of the best sequels of all time. But my second choice is going to be a movie that I think is just way, way better than the first one, even if it's not like in the category of like best movies of all time. That makes sense?
So are we going to round two?
Yeah, we're in round two.
We're in round two. I'm going there.
We're going to round two. Stan, it's your pick.
Round two.
I'm not going to steal anybody's here. Like I said, Mighty Ducks 2.
Oh,
What?
nice! A dark horse pick. Much respect from me.
It is not a great movie, but it is so much better than Mighty Ducks 1. It deserves notoriety in this.
That's hilarious.
I love the pick. I'm all about the dark horse picks. That one's a nostalgia movie for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I was just actually asked about if I'd seen if I'd let my my boy watch the Mighty Ducks yet, and I was like, no, I haven't. I've introduced him to Heavyweights and Cool Runnings, and that's kind of the same vein. But that's
the same. Disney
Mighty Ducks
live
2
action.
is definitely a better.
Mighty Ducks is solid, man.
You mean Mighty Ducks 2?
2, yeah.
Electric Boogaloo.
Exactly. So when they go to the Olympics, man, it's great.
Oh, man.
They go to the. That's so ridiculous. Anyway, I haven't seen this movie in a coon's age, so I can't really
It has been a while.
expound upon anything there.
Yep.
So, Jamie,
It's
what's your
been a
round two
decade.
pick?
All right. Well, I'm going to go predictable for me for sure and pick Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Jacked.
Yeah, we just did our Artie Moments draft, and so this one was pretty fresh in my mind. And honestly, I think this movie, talking about it in the Arnold Schwarzenegger moments, kind of made me real excited to do a superior sequel draft. It's really kind of that excellent follow-up to a movie that's kind of always hinted at more. And it's a bit odd, I guess, as a sequel. Well, maybe it's not odd as a sequel, but it rehashes the plot of the original film, but it makes a few like subversive switcheroos. Like, the villain of the first film is now the hero, which made more sense in the first place because Arnold Schwarzenegger is he's got some, that charisma. It really expands on what I guess could be called the Terminator verse or the Skynet verse, and kind of leaves us really wanting more and like to get deeper into the story and the world. And it adds a little bit of like what I termed circumstantial levity, because the Terminator can now, because he's a good guy, or there is a good Terminator, he can interact with the humans without trying to, like terminate them. And so it adds some fun. And I tend to like a little bit of comic relief in films, especially when there's a lot of killing and stuff like that. So, yeah, Terminator 2 is my pick.
I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle. Yeah, this movie is way better than the first one. I like the first one, but the effects are way better. Like the stop motion of the first one, it is pretty bad. It doesn't really hold up, but he gets more to do in this one, like you said. So he's not just some stoic villain who has zero emotion. He's trying to show emotion in this one. His fake smiles and all that good stuff. And then we kind of touched on this in the last one. And like most sequels do, they expand on the scope of everything. We get to see more of Skynet and how it came to be and all that other stuff. So, and
Without
some of the most quotable Arnold moments ever.
Yeah, and the other thing about it is it's not got a lot of like lore dumps. Like it's not a bunch of really weird, unnatural dialogue about or monologuing about what Skynet is. I think it's really well done in that regard.
Yeah. And we get Miles Dyson and all that good stuff too. So, yep.
Yeah. I think one of the things that makes that movie is the Edward Furlong bit, like the young kid, like it's not just an action movie. It like plays out this like mentor-mentee relationship, and like that. Those dynamics in movies just always kind of make the character development that much more interesting. I think without Edward Furlong, it wouldn't be near as good of a movie.
He's kind of a bad actor, though.
He's a kid, though.
I don't know. I think he's great. I'm just gonna go there.
He's great, and he's good in 2 movies.
Well, that's all he needed to be. He's good in those movies, and then life went off the rails, and you can blame the drugs or whatever else. But I think he was awesome in those 2 movies. He just played himself, man.
Yeah.
Oh man, shit, dad, shit.
I don't know. I mean,
your parents are dead.
Your foster parents are dead, though.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite. My favorite Arnold moments is one of those. But I think though, like, I don't really mind kids being annoying in movies because kids can be annoying.
Kids are annoying. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and
I mean, remember when you were a kid, Ian? You were annoying.
You know what I was thinking about the other day?
Yep.
That time I broke that pasta sauce. And you were like, my dinner for the week.
Tell the story. You got 2
I don't know. I was being ridiculous, and I knocked his pasta, his Alfredo sauce off a shelf, and it busted all over. And he was like, "What are we going to eat for the week?"
we were poor right out of college. It was like that was our dinner. That was our life.
In retrospect, I could have been like, "Hey, Mom, I broke some Stan's stuff. Can you replace it for him?" And it'd have been fine. But that didn't happen. Anyway, it's my second round pick, and I can't believe it fell to me. And I'm going with The Dark Knight.
Jacked.
Yeah, I figured it's on both y'all's lists, and I will go on record and say that Batman Begins is a better Batman movie
than
this
Dark
is
Knight.
Yes, but this is the better film in general, like in totality.
Okay.
I adore Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul, but what Heath Ledger pulled off as the Joker makes the movie for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And probably number 1 movie villain, performance ever. And he's basically the reason why that movie is better than the original. I think the storyline of Batman Begins is 100% better. I think it's more of a Batman movie. And if you take the Joker out, there's a lot of just kind of draggy stuff that's going on with the stuff in China or whatever in the movie. Exactly. You're like, what? Stuff in China? Yeah. And the IMAX shots are great in this movie, so I'm not going to hate on that. So, yeah, The Dark Knight is my number 2 pick. What you guys think?
No, I'm glad you presented it with the caveat of Batman Begins is a better Batman movie, because it was on my list of great sequels, and once it was sequels better than the initial one, I took it off the list.
So you like Batman Begins better?
I like Batman Begins better. But I agree with everything you said at the same time. Like, as a standalone movie, Dark Knight is better. But Batman Begins, in the context of the Batman trilogy, is the movie I enjoy more. Like, I love like origin stories, and I love all like the way Batman Begins kind of rebooted the franchise and like made it a more realistic, like everything about how that movie established itself in the genre and like what that movie meant to the trilogy. Like, that movie is my favorite in the trilogy. But everything you said, Joker, like all the stuff, IMAX, all that, yeah. I agree with you.
Okay. I think that's a fair take. I mean, I had it on my list, but again, it's all because of the Joker. Heath Ledger is just amazing. He's vile, chaotic, psychopathic, nihilistic. And the film, like The Empire Strikes Back, is one in which the bad guy wins. I think that's probably consciously done. In which case, like in trilogies, it makes sense to have, the descent to hell in the archetypal sense, where your hero is stuck. They lost. They need somewhere to go. So it makes the third movie all the more anticipated. So I like it.
And you, Jamie, you chose the Batman taking the blame in your greatest superhero moments.
I
draft.
did. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, I mean, that's part of the win of the villain here. So
right. And and the villain wins after he's captured, right?
Yeah. Well, it's one of those like a mastermind sort of things. But there's so many great moments of the film. Like if you're just like cruising videos on YouTube with your cell phone, or Facebook or whatever, like inevitably you come to like ones with Heath Ledger as the Joker, and it's whether it's him hitting the button for the explosives and he just like plays it off, and that was like it's just so it's got that comedy to it.
Yeah,
but it's so dark. It's like a really dark comedy, and
right. He's in like the nurse's outfit.
Yeah, and the making the pencil disappear, that one is great. Mm-hmm. Like it's just got so many moments like that. It's fun, but I do agree that Batman Begins is a better Batman movie.
I'm glad we're all in agreement there.
I didn't think of it that way, so y'all actually kind of made me think about that, but definitely.
All right. That was my round 2 pick. So it's time for round 3.
Round three.
All right. I don't think I'm jacking anybody here. But my number 3 pick is Blade Runner 2049.
Nope.
Did I jack you, Stan?
Nah.
Okay. So this is a 2017 movie follow-up sequel to Ridley Scott's 1982 cult classic sci-fi dystopian future movie. I think it's better. It's arguably better. I mean, I can go back and forth on it. This one's rated 8.0 on IMDb, and the other one is 8, and the original is 8.1. So, and Ridley Scott took 3-4 tries to get the film right with alternate cuts and taking out the narration, and so it took Denis Villeneuve one time to get this movie right. I think it's outstanding. The stunning visuals. I think it's got some of the best visuals, best cinematography. Hans Zimmer kills it with the score. He channels Vangelis perfectly, and yeah. So, and the acting is, the cast is an ensemble that I'd put up against any other ensemble film. So that's why I chose it.
I think the only reason you could say that movie is better than the original Blade Runner is because of like the time in which it's made, like the capability they have in filmmaking now versus then. But like bare bones, you're talking about just a movie, like story and like script and stuff like that. Original Blade Runner is easily so much better, but it's like they have so much more to work with now. So it's like I feel the same way about what's the new Mad Max movie. It's like
Fury Road.
That's not a better movie than the original, but
it is better than the original. It's not. I don't think it's better than 2. The original does not hold up.
Yeah, 2. The Road Warrior. Nobody
cares about the first one.
Right. That
2. Yeah, and Thunderdome is whatever. But that Fury Road and 2 are still. We won't get into that.
I haven't seen any of those.
You started a cinema podcast.
Scenario. It's like 30 years later, we're gonna like drudge up the same mythology and make a new movie, but we have all of the resources we didn't have. We made this old movie, and so it's just like a better movie. But like,
yeah, and I do have these modern sensibilities about Blade Runner, about movies in general. But Blade Runner 2049, I think it is kind of a slow. I mean, the original is kind of slow too, but I've watched all 3 different cuts to Blade Runner, the original, and I mean, it took them a while to get it right. I feel like.
I don't actually know which cut of the original I watched, but there's something about. I know that Ryan Reynolds is
Not
Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Gosling, whatever. My bad. I had his face in my head, but he ain't no Harrison Ford.
But Harrison Ford's in it, so
I know he's in it, but like
Cameo.
it's not a cameo. He's like,
pretty much.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, I love this movie. I was just watching it before we got hopped on here. So
it's instead of The Godfather 2. Mm-hmm.
I made it like 30 minutes into this movie.
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
and playing Mario Kart.
It's fair, but
look, I will watch The Godfather 2 and I'll record my take on if I think it's better than the original and tag it onto the back of this.
Okay, go ahead.
All right.
But no, I don't know. I don't know that I agree that the sequel is in this case is better, but I will concede that it is arguably better.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up for sure, and it might be my modern sensibilities. It might be that I have a man crush on Ryan Gosling. I don't know, but
too bad the
original is gorgeous too. Like it's beautiful, and the filmmaking behind it is incredible as well. So especially when they redid it, but.
Yeah. Well, and I think I've only seen the final cut of the original.
Final cut,
I haven't seen the work up to it.
Well, the first one I watched was like it had like these like noir style voiceover with Harrison Ford like saying all this random stuff, and it was just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Anyway, it took him, and this movie bombed. Like nobody liked it when it first came out. So, and nobody went and saw it. It was a bomb. So, but like I said, 8.1 versus 8.0 on IMDb. It's a toss-up, really.
Fair enough.
So that's my number 3 pick. Jamie, it's back to you.
All right, well, I'm going to pop the cherry and bust up into that MCU.
Great.
I am taking Captain America Civil War. I know Ian's a big fan of Winter Soldier, but we were promised a follow-up to Winter Soldier, which was admittedly an amazing sequel in its own right that did improve upon the original. What we got instead was basically an Avengers breakup movie. To me, that's under-promising and over-delivering. So not only does the film give us some depth and conflict between our heroes, it delves into their lives and the dark pasts and touches on some dark themes of revenge and redemption. And it gives us Spider-Man where he rightfully belongs with the rest of Marvel and the MCU. And really is also our introduction into Black Panther too. So like this movie's just awesome. So that's my nutshell take on it.
So yeah, I just don't feel like this is a Captain America movie. I mean, it is the third in the Captain America's trilogy, but it is just as much Iron Man's movie as it is Captain America's. And I just want to throw in Team Iron Man.
It's like when I was asking, like when I was clarifying at the beginning, like I was like, this is the movie I was thinking of, like because it is a Captain America sequel, but it's only as good as it is because it's part of the greater universe. Mm-hmm. Like without like you said, leading up to Black Panther, Spider-Man coming in the picture, Iron Man, like it's the ensemble that makes it great. And without the larger world of the MCU, like it couldn't have been as big of a movie as it was.
No, right. I think the MCU really kind of throws a wrench into a lot of traditional categorization of films.
Yeah.
So, but I like it too because it creates that kind of comic book interconnectedness that we
I agree.
Comic book nerds enjoyed.
But I will say, despite everything we're saying, I still think Winter Soldier is better.
I agree. 100% agree.
But I get it. It's they're like right there.
Well, let's see if anybody drafts it, and then y'all can tell me.
But it is not my favorite MCU movie, Winter Soldier either. So
no. But I mean, again,
it might be. I think it is my favorite MCU movie, Winter Soldier.
I was not a fan of Winter Soldier for a little while, and then I rewatched it, and I was like, "What was it about this movie that I didn't like?" And
It was different. It's like a spy thriller, and
there ain't nothing about it that I didn't like.
Yeah.
It's basically MCU meets like Jason Bourne or something. I don't know, but
it's
which also movies I
Spy
really
Game
enjoy.
with Robert Redford and Brad Pitt.
Yeah, like I
Also,
really enjoy the film. So.
Robert Redford is in this movie. Anyway, we're talking about Winter Soldier, which was not your pick. So
no, but
let's move on to Stan's third round pick.
Do it.
So far, I have not been jacked. I feel successful.
Okay, Mighty Ducks 2.
Exactly. Nobody's gonna pick that. My third pick, and again, I don't know how this one made it through, to be honest, because like I was like, ooh, I might get it on my third pick, but not knowing I would be like, with the snake draft, I'm like way down the list.
Mm-hmm.
This is easily one. It's the best in the trilogy. It's way better than the first, and one of the best movies of all time in a sequel trilogy. Back to the Future 2.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Back to the Future 2 is everything that trilogy was made for.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it in a while, but it is it's an incredible film. So
I've seen the original so many more times that like I kind of feel like I like the original better. And also knowing, I don't know, 1985 it was the year before I was born, so I'm kind of like going, it doesn't look like that, but I can see it. But I think I might like the original better, which is why I didn't make my list.
Same.
Yeah, I hear you. I feel like everything you want in the original happens. Like you're like Back to the Future, but there's no future in the first one. It's like all in the past. You know what I mean? And then you really get to see like the future in Back to the Future 2. And then 3 is the worst one by far.
Oh, for sure.
But still good.
It's like The
Not
Godfather,
like that
right?
bad. It's still good. What's that?
It's like The Godfather, right?
I'm gonna hold my until I see this new version of Godfather 3, I won't say anything too disparaging, but like I don't even like if before you mentioned that there's a recut or a re-edit of it, like I pretend it doesn't exist. Like Godfather 1 and 2 are a twinology, like 2 movies, no 3.
A duology.
I basically binged them when I watched them, and that's been over a decade.
Right.
But I didn't hate The Godfather 3 as much. Like I went in and knowing that it was supposed to be bad, and so maybe my expectations were so low.
Right.
But I kind of just felt, and I think I watched it like immediately after 2. So I was just kind of like, maybe just too tired to enjoy it or to be critical. So
all I know is that Sofia Coppola is not good in the film.
No.
Anyway.
Nobody's good with them.
Nobody's good. Golly.
Like even Al Pacino is like, what happened to you? You just old and cranky now.
All right. So Back to the Future 2.
Back to the Future 2. And round 3?
4. We're going to round 4.
Round 4.
Yeah.
Round 4, I will go into the MCU as well. My favorite MCU movie. And again, with the criteria significantly better, not just than the first 2 of the 3, but significantly better than the worst movie in the MCU, which was the second one, Thor Ragnarok.
Oh my God. Thor Dark World is so bad. It is so bad.
It is. They had to make that third one good, otherwise Thor would have been done. And yet now he's got his 4th movie coming, so.
And he's going to be in the 3rd Guardians movie, I think. The Guardians of the Galaxy.
And look, did you see they had like set pictures come out?
Of what?
Of
Thor Love and Thunder?
No, I missed it.
There's like the Guardians are going to be in that, it looks like.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Probably both ways, but.
Also, it's going to be a Civil War, but for the space Avengers.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
And apparently we're getting Jane Foster as Thor. Anyway, Thor Ragnarok.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this movie's great. It's hilarious.
Yeah, this was on my list. It was number 5. After being jacked some, it was number 5.
Hi, I'm Cork. I'm a rock.
Well, I mean, really though, Thor had a rough solo start. But they were trying to do with him what the comics did, and if you read the old comics, I mean, he's using these and thous. Like they took it in a almost a sort of tongue-in-cheek Shakespearean way and I mean, you got Mr. Modern Shakespeare himself,
Kenneth Branagh to direct it.
Oh, I mean, they really doubled down on it. I mean, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it didn't work as well. And when we got Joss Whedon's Thor in Avengers, like we kind of going, oh man, this guy, he is funny, he is cool, right. And so Taika Waititi just nails it with him, and we get to see some real character growth from this God of Thunder, which we weren't really seeing. We saw him struggle, but he really was this. It's a Scandinavian epic kind of thing. So it's really this Beowulf, very flat, macho sort of character going on. And, we see in Ragnarok, Chris Hemsworth and Mark Ruffalo, their chemistry is really good. And the same thing with Tom Hiddleston's Loki. I mean, there's no arguing with it. Dude's like, there's charm out the wazoo in this film. So,
all right, I want you to imagine something that you never saw a trailer for this movie, and you went in, and the Hulk busts out of. You had no idea the Hulk was in it, and the Hulk busts out of the Coliseum as the champion. And that's how they build it up, right? I mean, it's sort of dramatic irony because we know because of the trailers, which I think trailers, they just ruin movies sometimes. And the first time I saw it, I was like, bro, if I literally would have shat myself if this happened in the theater, and
I agree.
They had kept it under wraps, but like with the internet and the scoop culture, like they can't keep that. Oh, Mark Ruffalo is in this, he's such a big part, and it's not just a cameo. So
no, I think the problem with it is like, and you see the same thing with pro wrestling, like keeping reveals and stuff like that. But then you also go, well, you don't want to necessarily keep a reveal if it's going to get you more viewership. So the problem with this is it was following up Dark World, which was widely panned and widely not very loved for good reason for the most part. So they needed something to go, hey, look, it's a little bit more like an Avengers movie than just, one of these Thor movies. So, I agree. Like, I used this movie as an example today because we're covering Beowulf in class, and we talked about what the actual, mythology of Ragnarok was and everything. And so we can kind of learn some of the culture. And so I actually was talking about this movie with my students today. And for the first time, most of them will go, oh yeah, I've seen that, instead of going like, oh no, I haven't seen that. I'm like, come on. I'm like actually picking popular movies to tie to literature, and you guys, you haven't seen it. So.
Oh, sweet. Who was that? That was Stan? All right. So it's Jamie. It is your round 4 pick.
Okay. So Thor Ragnarok was on there, but okay. I'm gonna golly, do I really want to stick in the MCU?
I mean, that's true to form for you, right?
It would be true to form for me, but I'm not going to. I'm going to save it.
For your round 5 pick?
Harry Potter.
Aww.
And the Half-Blood Prince.
Oh.
I'm not one who says that the Prisoner of Azkaban is the best sequel to whatever. I don't think so. But I mean, Harry Potter's a
You're wrong, but okay.
Yeah. Harry Potter's I don't like it because I don't like the Prisoner of Azkaban as much because it starts fiddling with time, and that kind of, it's early on, so it creates a lot of plot holes later on. Why didn't they just use a time turner? But anyway,
maybe that's the sequel's fault for not going back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Harry Potter's a franchise with a lot of sequels to choose from, and they grow up and become less innocent as they go, as you would expect. So, and Order of the Phoenix is probably my favorite book, but it's one of my least favorite films. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince is probably my favorite film in the franchise. It's kind of a perfect blend of dark, dark themes and teen humor. Like I mentioned in my last one, I use this in my English class, and I use the original I can't talk. The original trailer, which is kind of like dark and scary, and then a fan-made teen comedy trailer to demonstrate differences of tone using the same film. But really, one of the reasons that this one is better is it really kind of introduces us to the history of Lord Voldemort, and spoiler warning, it's got the death of Dumbledore, and it's got the Horcruxes, which ultimately leads into the final arc of Harry Potter, where without the protection and crutch of the archetypal mentor, he has to, with the help of friends, defeat the Dark Lord once for all. So it really leads into that. And so I think that it's good. And I think part of it, one of the reasons I like it better than the Deathly Hallows is that there's so much happening, and it becomes so dark. It's like The Empire Strikes Back, where the bad guys win, and they're winning, and you're going, well, where do we go from here? Okay, we got to fight from this very low, dark place.
I think you just changed my mind. I think this is my favorite one. Did you hear me?
He changes his mind. I'm just shocked into silence.
Yeah, you started going into all that. I was like, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. I do like Azkaban a lot, but Half-Blood Prince, Snape's my favorite character. So, and this is pretty focal on him, this whole movie.
True.
And yeah, Deathly Hallows, somebody needs to recut that into one movie, those two. Because they'd be walking around and sitting around and camping and arguing about nothing for an hour and a half.
I liked it, but I mean,
yeah, I know. I'm not saying it's terrible,
well, see, here's the thing: is really they could have done the same. They could have split the Order of the Phoenix into two books, and I like reading the books. That's just one of the books are far superior to the movies, except for I think the first one, which is very faithful to the books.
Yeah,
they don't leave anything significant out.
Well, yeah, the first one is very small, so
true. Well, it's more of a children's book.
All right, sweet. Is my round 4 pick? Stan, did you have any thoughts on Half-Blood?
Meh. Harry Potter. Meh.
You're not a,
I've seen them, but I don't have strong thoughts on any one in particular. I kind of feel everybody agrees the books are better than the movies, and I kind of feel like that's what makes the movies noteworthy. And they were kind of in a time where making a series of movies that long was possible where it wasn't before. So I think they kind of rode the wave of their reputation and the time to become good, but I don't think they're all that impressive.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Who is this guy, and why did we invite him on the podcast?
You gotta think about it. Lord of the Rings, The Dark Knight, Blade Runner, 2049 at least, Terminator. A lot of these are Oscar-nominated films. Godfather. Godfather Part 2 is the first sequel to ever win the Best Picture award.
You're welcome.
All right, my round 4 pick. And you can yell at me all you want. You say it's not a sequel, it's not blah, blah, blah. It's Logan. I think it is very much a sequel to the original 3 X-Men movies. It is sort of an alternate future, but that doesn't make it any less of a sequel.
Which X-Men movie isn't an alternate future?
Right. That's why I think.
It kind of when we're talking about reboots and X-Men blurs all those lines. Is First Class a sequel or is that a reboot?
It's a prequel.
Yeah, but
okay, but Logan is the sequel to the original trilogy for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
We get all kind of mentions of the battle on the Statue of Liberty, and we get the same two actors. They're kind of their swan song. So why is it better than the original? Well, the original three are pretty much a mixed bag, right? X1 is like what launches superhero movies into into the forefront of pop culture. X2 is a very, very good sequel that improves upon the first one. X3 is the biggest pile of doo-doo trash I've ever seen in a movie. So I'll put it up there with Ghost Rider. And
wasn't that Nicolas Cage?
Yes. Anyway, I mean, this movie packs hard emotional punches for characters that we've been spending almost 20 years with. Professor, Hugh Jackman embodies Wolverine. When you think of Wolverine, you think of Hugh Jackman now.
I don't know, bub.
And yeah, and then there hasn't been a more perfect casting in any superhero, any comic book character as Patrick Stewart as Professor X.
Oh, I was about to say, I mean,
he absolutely.
I didn't know who you were talking about.
Patrick Stewart absolutely kills it in this movie, and his death hits you hard. Along with this is the death of Wolverine, right? And I wish they would have left it alone, but they had to go put out another turd called Dark Phoenix, and then the much maligned New Mutants. But hopefully we get some good stuff.
Oh man, New Mutants was so bad.
Hopefully we get some good stuff now that the MCU will start doing stuff with it. And I'm going to call it this. What's today? February 3rd is the day we were recording this. I think Magneto is going to show up in WandaVision.
Okay.
What?
No,
Yeah,
I think
I think
Mephisto is going to show up in WandaVision.
Yeah.
I think
Why Magneto? What?
because he's Wanda's dad in comic book lore.
That's true.
But not in the MCU.
We don't know about her dad.
Ah.
All right, I'm calling it.
All right.
I'm calling it now.
He called it.
I'm calling it now.
Most people
Anyway.
are already calling Mephisto, so I can't say anything about that. But okay. And Logan is one that I enjoyed as a standalone film. It was very well done. It was also a little bit dark for me to enjoy. It's like I gotta be in the like I never want to watch it again. That's my problem with it. Is that I watch I watch those like really dark movies once, and then I'm like, man, that was good. I don't need to watch that again because it didn't make me feel positively in any sort of way. And I guess I got enough darkness to just be like, yeah, I'm good. I need to watch something a little more uplifting or have some sort of levity somewhere, and it doesn't have that. But I would definitely say it is. If you're calling it a sequel to any of the X-Men films, to the original X-Men or to the Wolverine focal films like Wolverine Origins or whatever, then absolutely, certainly, it is a far superior sequel to any of them. But definitely bleak.
Yeah, I mean, it's this hard R spaghetti western, inspired movie. But I can't think about. They might bring Wolverine back into the MCU, but I can't imagine he'll be anywhere near the caliber of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, especially in this movie.
You didn't mention it, but I definitely think the X-Men trilogy, and it's a sequel to that. But it's also like so much better than like the X-Men Origins Wolverine movies, like right. Wolverine and the Wolverine, like those like X-Men. I think even worse than X3. X-Men Origins Wolverine was like.
Oh, that one's. I've never seen that movie all the way through, but it's so bad.
Really?
But the Wolverine is watchable.
Yeah, it's all right, but it's that Logan is definitely better by far than both those two.
Yeah,
I think the wise thing to do with the MCU and the entrance of the X-Men is to take the comic book tact and leave Wolverine out of the X-Men to start, because he wasn't part of the original X-Men.
Right.
Leave him out. Have him show up.
He's the after credit sequence.
Or something. I don't know.
Absolutely, yeah.
But
Alpha
the thing
Flight.
is
bring Alpha Flight in.
Oh my gosh, we need some Canadians, right?
The Canucks, yeah.
I want him to bring. I want. I don't know. I don't see Wolverine as such a very stereotypical Canadian because he's not polite,
right?
But it's just that thing going. But I think that I'm cool with Alpha Flight coming in if they want to do that. I was all about that back in the day. But no, I think we would need some time away from Wolverine, from Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, to really be okay with somebody new taking the role.
Right.
It's interesting. I grew up loving X-Men. Like, it was crazy. And then when they finally made the movies, like, it was like, oh, whatever. But I remember like being like little, and there's this like Wizard magazine, like it's like I had comic book cards and whatever, and I just Googled it to find it. Like I remember, it's like the only thing I remember from like this magazine was like they casted an X-Men movie like 15 years before they ever thought about it. It was like, and look, it's like Patrick Stewart is like the guy that they cast for Trouble for Colossus. But like the best thing is it's got Jean-Claude Van Damme for Gambit and Glenn Danzig for Wolverine.
Is that like the strong kid?
Which one? Yeah. Like Danzig from the he's like in what band is he in? Danzig is one of them, but
yeah.
He's in some...
My goodness. Let's move on to round 5.
There you go.
Round 5.
Round 5.
All right. I'm about to catch some flack, I think. Or you might be able to shoot me down and say that it's not a sequel. I don't know. But it's one of my favorite superhero movies. It's Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice.
What's a sequel to?
Man of Steel.
I think that's fair.
It is a direct sequel. We pick up right where we left off.
I agree. It's a sequel.
The battle of Metropolis between Zod and
I don't think it's
Superman.
A good choice.
Yeah.
But you don't think it's a good choice, but in my soul, I feel like it's a good choice. I mean, controversial, divisive, whatever. I mean, you can go back and forth on whether or not it's better than Man of Steel, which I love Man of Steel, and it might depend on my mood at the time. If I'm looking for something a little more hopeful, I'll go to Man of Steel. If I'm looking for, something more dour or bleak, which I love usually, I'll go to Batman v Superman. And we get a lot of cool stuff in this. This second act of this Zack Snyder's vision of Superman, the savior sort of thing, like birth. This is the death, and now in next month we're getting Zack Snyder's Justice League, which will be the resurrection of Superman. And
pretending like the other Justice League movie that came out doesn't exist, right?
It's so bad. But it is not Zack Snyder's vision. This was not his vision, the original one. That's mostly Joss Whedon's work, heavy reshoots and stuff. So we get the introduction to Wonder Woman. We get this universe's Batman, played by Ben Affleck, which is incredible.
I like that. I actually liked him as Bruce Wayne, which I didn't think I would, but I really did. Yeah,
and of course, Zack Snyder is one of my favorite directors. He's very visual in his storytelling. So I like I've said it before on past podcasts, I can't wait for the director's cut of Justice League.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think that the Snyder cut of Batman versus Superman is the only one worth watching. Like
Ultimate Edition.
Yeah, whatever it is. Like it was confusing and convoluted, the theatrical release. That one is way better, but I still don't think it's better than Man of Steel. Like I think Man of Steel was but again, it's like kind of the same argument with Batman Begins and Dark Knight. Like I like origin stories. Like I like And Batman versus Superman feels like a setup to Justice League, and the fact that Justice League was such a letdown, like I feel like it kind of attaches to that. But it is definitely way better than it gets credit for sure.
Yeah.
I remember sitting down with Ian and the fam and watching the film and going in assuming that the film was bad based on everything that I'd heard. And I didn't dislike it as much as I thought that I would. And I don't think that I disliked it. There were a number of things that I kind of go like, I don't really understand why this is here or this is in there. Or I wish there was some setup or some foreshadowing of this, that, or the other. And I'm not sure that it is a better film than Man of Steel, which I've actually watched most of recently because the boy is real into Superman right now.
He told me the other day Superman's his favorite.
Thanks to you giving him comics and DC crap. Can't get this kid interested in a Marvel like he should be, but whatever. He's an avid reader, so I'm good with that. I'll live.
Hey, I got him Star Wars comics for Christmas. Approximately 6 different trade paperbacks. So
that Shadows of the Empire omnibus book you gave me. He has been looking at it for a while, and he finally opened it and realized it was a comic, and he's like, oh man, what have I not been reading? So yeah, but he's 8, so like comic books are totally up his alley. So Superman is kind of his favorite, and as an 8-year-old, that makes sense. Superman can do everything; he's the coolest. When you get older, I think some of that dies. But I'm gonna let the 8-year-old idealism live as long as it can live.
Yeah,
I'm cool with it.
But when we went recently, when we were driving long distances, I gave him the Death of Superman to read through, and he cruised through it. And he actually drew me a bunch of different characters from the trade paperback, which is cool.
His artistic interest has grown exponentially because of the comic books you've been giving him. He's been making up his own comic book characters. So that on a personal level, I have this kind of new begrudging love of Superman because of the positive impact it's had on my son. So
I mean, he's so hopeful.
Right. Well, as much as I kind of go, Superman, blah, personally, on another level, I go, well, this is a character my kid admires. So, all right, I'm gonna give it another shot. And so, Man of Steel, it's not my favorite movie. It's not my thing, but it's like I need to view it in a different light, and I'm starting to view it in a different light.
All right. Well, maybe we'll change your mind on a future episode.
I think that's
teaser trailer plant. All right.
See what you can come up with,
Jamie. Your round 5 pick.
My round 5 pick. All right. So I've got some choices, but I am going to return to the MCU since we're sticking with comic books, and I'm going to go Avengers Endgame because I never give the movie as much credit as I really want to. It's about as epic as they come as far as the MCU is concerned and comic book movies are concerned. But one of the things that it does is it kind of pares it back down to their original heroes for the most part. And, it's one of those films I was psyched for, and I think the rest of the world was psyched for, and kind of like y'all were for Justice League, and, y'all were let down, but I don't think Endgame really let people down. But the thing that really hooked me was the 5 years later thing. That I'm watching in the theater and my jaw literally drops as I'm watching this. I'm going, wait, they didn't just undo it all in one, in the prologue here, and it's chock full of satisfying fan service, but the fan service doesn't feel forced.
Oh, okay.
To some extent, it doesn't, and it makes sense to the characters for the most part. It's not like the fan service in like Rise of Skywalker where Chewbacca gets a medal, which is fun, but it really doesn't make that much sense in universe. You know, you have Cap being worthy to wield Mjolnir, which is fan service, but it's also set up in Age of Ultron. Like, this is a thing that's happened. You know, you have on your left and the Avengers assemble, and really culminating with the final I am Iron Man. It's really just, I have to choose it for my number 5. I'm kind of surprised it didn't already go, but then again, with the other movies that have been taken other than Mighty Ducks, I'm surprised that I am getting to pick it. So, yeah.
I think Infinity War is way better. It's like the Empire Strikes Back of the MCU.
It's the bad guy wins. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that this is, I mean, the last half of Endgame, like rewatching it, yes, it's like epic and fan servicey, but it's like kind of like not as satisfying as the end of Infinity War was, because the end game, we know that the good guys are going to win, right? We know that they're going to, this is where they fight back and they win. And finally, and we're getting the closeout. Yes, we get the ending where, you know, the I am Iron Man is definitely not expected and great.
Tearjerker.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that Infinity War, the stakes were higher. The threat was bigger. You didn't have Captain Marvel as the, you know, all powerful MacGuffin.
Deus Ex Machina, yeah.
Right, yeah. So I just think that Infinity War is better. So I couldn't take Endgame as the sequel to Infinity War, because I believe that Infinity War is way better.
It's kind of it's like an interesting like commentary and like discussion on like what makes a movie good, because like on paper Infinity War is the better movie, but like I've watched Endgame more. Like, I enjoy it more. It's more satisfying. But it's arguable that that's not because of the movie, it's because of the MCU, and it's like all these payoffs over, and it's like they built, you know, whatever. It's like it's just it's hard to definitively say which is a better movie, because, well, they're both bad, you know, and they're built on so much more than just the single movie. And so it's like you're talking about Return of the King earlier. Like, Return of the King is a great movie, but it wouldn't be nearly as good if it hadn't been for Fellowship and Two Towers. Like, it builds to that point, you know.
Sure.
So it's kind of like it's just a whole different animal, you know.
Yeah, well, yeah, MCU is a tough beast to play with when it comes to sequels and stuff, because it's you know.
Well, unlike some sequels, like, so for instance, like Terminator 2, which is kind of like, okay, let's do another one. You know, the first one, it's over. You know, let's see what we can come up with. With Infinity War and Endgame, like all the Lord of the Rings trilogy, it's part of a continuous story.
Yeah, they pre-planned a lot of it.
Right. It's told through. So it's basically, do you like the fall, or do you like the heroic climax? And really, I get it. I get the love for Infinity War. I love both films, absolutely, positively. And Infinity War's setup made me love Endgame all the more, because it gave me all the payoffs that I wanted and really desired to see for these characters because of Infinity War. So, I mean, and really, I one of the reasons I didn't pick Infinity War, even though it is technically a sequel, I see it almost as the initial two-parter for, you know, the climax of the Infinity Stone Saga. So,
well, since we talked about it, you're saying that it's this sort of greater narrative that is kind of pre-planned, and that's part of the reason why Justice League was so bad is because they scrapped a lot of the stuff that he had tried to set up in Batman v Superman, in Man of Steel, and we didn't get any sort of payoffs, really. except for the resurrection of Superman,
Well,
which they had to do because he's already dead.
Right. I think.
But in the same thing with Rise of Skywalker in Last Jedi is that the Force Awakens set all this stuff up, and then Last Jedi just kind of like tore it all down, and then Rise of Skywalker just kind of tore all that down. So it was just like there was no pre-planning involved, like Lord of the Rings, like
Harry Potter,
like the MCU, and that's why I think that you know. There are little teases in Man of Steel. Like we see Bruce Wayne's satellite gets crushed. We see Lex Luthor, his truck or, tanker truck or whatever get smashed into a building or whatever. We see all these little teases to a greater universe, and we get to expound upon that in Batman v Superman. But that's part of the reason why Justice League is so bad and why Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker suffers so much is because there's no pre-planning. And
I think film executives should stick out of the way and let storytellers do their storytelling and pre-approve the vision beforehand. Don't go, okay, we're going to let 3 different people have their vision, and then you got Rian Johnson whose vision doesn't really mesh up with J.J. Abrams and whoever. I can't even remember who was going to do the third one and backed out because they're like,
Colin Trevorrow.
Going, I can't work with this. And that's not you got like a multi-billion-dollar franchise going. That's really not the way to handle that.
Yeah.
So,
all right, round 5, Stan 10.
No, does Stan have anything to add to that?
I agree with everything you're saying. I mean,
Okay.
I got nothing to add.
All right, Stan, it's your round 5 pick. Better be a good one.
I still got none of them stolen, so I'm now torn for what to pick.
Well, you get 2 bench warmers at the end. We'll just do a quick take. So
2 bench warmers. All right. Well, yeah, I'm gonna go with The Last Crusade.
Oh, you jacked me.
Dude, how you gonna? So he jacked your honorable mention?
Yeah, he jacked my honorable mention. It was my next one.
It's way better than the first 2.
It's not, but okay.
It is.
It's easily.
It is. It's not easily.
Yeah.
It is way better than Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
And I think it is about on par with. But I didn't put it in my top 5 because I think.
Him,
yeah. Okay.
Let him do his talk.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of the opposite of how I feel about Batman Begins and Dark Knight. Like it's like the original Indiana Jones was all set up, but it wasn't like there was no depth to it. It was just like, oh, here's this cool mythology, this cool like kind of like a New Hope versus Empire. It's like you're introduced to this world. You're like, oh, this is really cool, but there's not much there. And then you get all the what's there in The Last Crusade. They just totally botched Temple of Doom. You know what I mean? So
Well, it's a prequel, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But like I'm saying, like all the stuff with his dad, and I guess kind of the same stuff that applies when you talk about Terminator 2 with like the younger kid and the older Terminator. Like you get his dad and him, and like all those dynamics, and there's all this backstory, and like that's what makes the movie. It's not like the search for the Holy Grail. It's him and his dad and that whole thing, you know?
Right. I mean, like Harrison Ford is good, and he can have charisma with a lot of different folks, but Sean Connery's even more charismatic. Like the 2 of them together, it's just gold. And I mean, the Holy Grail is not the Ark of the Covenant, but it's still like the quintessential quest sort of thing. And like Sean Connery takes a comic relief role in the film, and that's one of the reasons I think it works even better than Raiders of the Lost Ark is because he's taking the comic relief role, and he's Sean freaking Connery. And it even I was thinking about this film. It ups the stakes even a bit with the Nazi bad guys because he does this face to face with De Fuhrer, that sumbitch.
Oh yeah.
I
forgot about that.
And he gives Indiana Jones an autograph. It's like
with the book burning.
Right, but the other thing it also does the more development for the protagonist with Indiana Jones, and the opening scene, it like gives us all the origins of his trademarks, the whip and the hat and the chin scar, and Like,
River Phoenix playing the young Indiana Jones.
oh, I didn't even realize that was him. Dang. Yeah. I actually just watched the spoof of How I Met Your Mother. That like either the final season or the second to last season, where like they do that homage to the Last Crusade and the Night Guardian. I think it's Sir Galahad, but I really don't remember. And it keeps saying like, "You have chosen poorly." Yeah, so it's like this is a great film. I love this one way better than any of the other two films, because there is no fourth Indiana Jones film.
What, fourth? They did one of those?
Right. They're about to do a fifth one.
I heard.
So I think it was either Spielberg or George Lucas who said, when the script came and they were like, all right, well, we got to cast Indiana Jones' father. And they said, well, there's only one person who can play Indiana Jones' dad, and that's James Bond. So they got who they wanted to do it. Yeah. But I think growing up, Last Crusade, I was huge into Indiana Jones. Last Crusade was definitely my favorite. No matter
had like the trilogy VHS tapes.
Oh yeah, now I got them on Blu-ray. Now I got the trilogy plus this other disc that I don't know what's on it yet. I guess it's special features. But I think on my last watch through, when I showed them to Emily, I enjoyed the first one more. So so that's why, like, when I was thinking about my list, I didn't put Last Crusade on there because I think I enjoy the first one more now. And it is, like you said, this one, it does kind of expand on, like most sequels do. It is a true sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, but so Temple of Doom isn't really a sequel. I mean, it is technically a sequel, but it takes place before, so it's like a prequel. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
All right. So it's time to recap.
All right, Stan, give us your top 5. Did you write them down?
No, but I can't remember.
I can give them to you.
I wrote
Godfather 2, Mighty Ducks 2, Back to the Future 2, Ragnarok, and Last Crusade.
Yeah. All right, Ian?
Mine is number 1, The Empire Strikes Back. Number 2, The Dark Knight. Number 3, Blade Runner 2049. Number 4, Logan. And number 5, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice.
All right. Jamie, I had number 1, Return of the King. Number 2, Terminator 2. Number 3, Captain America Civil War. Number 4, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. And number 5, Avengers Endgame.
All right. It is time for bench warmers. Stan, give me a bench warmer real quick.
Kill Bill Volume 2. Like,
oh, snap. I didn't even think about that movie.
But they're both so good. It's hard to say that it's better than the first one. And it's like a one-story kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a continuation. Yeah,
it's a great movie. Like, it's better than a lot of the ones I mentioned, but it's like hard to argue whether it's better than one. So
right, I hear you with that. Okay. Jamie,
Toy Story 2. Now, true challenge to follow up a movie as iconic as Toy Story, but like with Empire Strikes Back, it can be done. One of the things I like about it is that it maintains the growth and relationships of the characters, and it progresses their friendship, the one between Buzz and Woody, and kind of delves into both of them individually. And, it introduces tertiary characters from their kind of personal journeys, and these characters persist throughout the sequels, and they're good characters. Like Jesse in particular is one. So
Jesse. All right. I'm going to go with a movie I didn't pick because you took Return of the King. I'm going with my favorite Lord of the Rings movie. It's The Two Towers. This movie's freaking so good. I love the Ents. I know a lot of people or whatever with them, but
they're great.
Yeah, we get new really important characters like Éomer and Éowyn and just King Theoden and Wormtongue and all these important players into the grand scheme of this epic trilogy. And of course, everyone's favorite character in Lord of the Rings, the books at least, is Faramir.
Yeah, but he's done injustice.
Okay, I get it, but he's gotten the best scene in Return of the King by far, which is the storming of.
Is
Osgiliath.
it in the theatrical release or is that only in the extended?
That's in the theatrical release. Where
I don't know. I've only seen the theatrical in the theaters.
When they're trying to retake the Osgiliath.
Yeah, and
I just remember
Denethor eating the tomato and
Billy Boyd singing.
Yeah.
That's an amazing scene. But that's also Return of the King.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But anyway,
Booyah.
But it's all set up. It's all set up in Two Towers.
But that's what I'm saying. I remember thinking.
But hold on. Let me throw this in. Let me say this one thing, and then I'll back out. Is the best battle scene in any film is the Battle of Helm's Deep. Come at me, bro. All right, go.
Saving Private Ryan.
I remember thinking, and again, it's like
fair enough.
The extended editions versus the theatrical release. I remember thinking when I saw that, I was like, "Who's this guy Faramir? He doesn't matter at all." Because I hadn't read the books before I saw the movies, and he's way more. He's right. I know my wife is mad at me as well, but he's so insignificant in the theatrical releases versus the extended editions that I think everything you're saying only applies to Two Towers if it's the extended edition because the movie was.
Who watches it any other way, right?
I'm just people do, I guess. I don't know.
I guess if you stream them for free, you get that.
I think when I was still married to my ex-wife, I got the theatrical release of Return of the King for Christmas, and I was a little disappointed. I was just like, you don't really understand, do you? And that's why we got divorced.
All right. Stan, Benchwarmer number 2.
So I didn't pick this one because I don't even know for sure if it qualifies. Because it's a
Benchwarmer. You can do whatever you want.
I'm gonna say the original movie it is the sequel to first, Manhunter.
Ah, yes, The Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs. But
wait, what?
They were book things, but they weren't made as cinematic sequel, as a cinematic sequel. When they made the movie, they just made it as its own movie, but it was the sequel to a book that had also been made into a movie prior.
Right, Manhunter is the first.
I don't know if I followed it.
So Manhunter is the first in the book series. They made it back in whatever.
80s.
Brian Cox. Yeah, Brian Cox plays Hannibal Lecter.
Oh.
And I think one of the guys from NCIS plays the FBI investigator that's in the show Hannibal, and then he's in Red. Edward Norton plays him in Red Dragon. But anyway, that was the first. That came out in the 80s, and then Silence of the Lambs came out.
But when they made Silence of the Lambs, it wasn't like they were trying to make a sequel to Manhunter.
They made they made the book sequel.
Yeah, exactly.
Clever pick. I'm glad you didn't try that crap on the draft.
People are like, do what?
Well, I'm gonna pick one that I don't know technically counts as a sequel or not, but 10 Cloverfield Lane. So it's the second film in the Cloververse.
Yeah.
So,
okay. The Cloververse.
Yeah, that's what they called it. I think.
I think it's just the Cloververse.
That's the one where John Goodman's crazy in the pod, right?
Yeah. Okay. So John Goodman.
I haven't seen it yet.
Shady, neurotic. I'm not going to spoil it because a lot of people haven't seen it. So and it hadn't been out that terribly long, but he's like this, really shady, neurotic, extreme prepper type. But it really. So the original, is a found footage monster film, and so accordingly, it's going to lack some narrative structure that we see in this sequel, which is not a found film sort of thing. But one of the things that this film does so much better than the original, it builds up characters, it creates lots of doubts in the audience's mind, so that the truth is really hard to figure out, and that's what really makes this film. It makes the audience feel like the characters, full of fear and doubt. And I think that's why it's a superior sequel. I enjoyed both of them, but this one definitely I enjoyed more. Watched it twice in a row. because the wife decided to watch it the next night. So I was like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I think I went, you have to watch this movie because you will really, really like it.
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I start a TV show. I'm like, I'll start it over with you.
Yeah.
I'm like
I
8
just-
episodes in.
just started that with Man in the High Castle. Now I watched the first episode. I'm like, Bane,
Oh, that show's tight.
together. We're gonna have to watch this together because I know you will very much enjoy this show, and so will I.
I got like 3 seasons into the Americans. I was like, or 4 seasons into the Americans. I was like, you want to watch this show with me? And we watched it all together. So I rewatched the first 4 seasons.
Nice.
My number 2 bench warmer. I'm not going to take Spider-Man 2, even though I think that's better. I want to stay away from comic books. I'm going to take The Conjuring 2. I know you two aren't really big into horror movies, but this may or may not be superior than the original one, but I love horror movies. I love being scared. So I think The Conjuring 2 is just it kind of a true case files of the Warrens. Y'all know who Ed and Lorraine Warren are. They're like paranormal investigators from the 60s and 70s.
Don't care.
Right.
Just kidding.
All right. Anyway, I'll take The Conjuring 2.
All
Since
right,
there's not
so-
going to be much discourse about that. I'll throw
It's been on my TV a handful of times. I've never actually watched it though.
No, I don't do horror movies by choice very often.
Yeah.
But one sequel that I really wanted to mention was Gremlins 2, because we've had to retire Gremlins.
That movie sucks.
It is so bad. If you have not watched the Key and Peele skit on planning Gremlins 2 sequel, please go watch it. It is absolutely hilarious, and like everything they talk about in there, no matter how ridiculous, is absolutely true. It is the most ridiculous sequel ever, and I wrote notes to myself that I had to mention it since we're doing a sequel-oriented podcast. So, Gremlins 2, Key and Peele, watch the skit on YouTube.
All right. Well, that wraps up our superior sequels draft. Stan, thanks for hanging out. Plug your band one more time.
My band is Back Real. You can check us out on Spotify. BACKREAL.
Sweet. And yeah, I know we left some off. There's some really good sequels that we left off, and you can holler at us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or the comments on YouTube. You can follow us there, and so you can yell at us because we left Aliens off.
Not better.
I'm glad
than the
nobody
original.
picked that, by the way. I was watching lists and they were like, Aliens. I was like, the movie's meh.
No, not better. It's good, but it's not better than the original.
Exactly.
I'll agree.
Glad
That's why
we
I'm
all
taking
agree
it.
that movie does not deserve to be on any list.
Okay. I mean, I love the original Alien. So, anyway,
Yeah.
we are the Cine-Siblings podcast. Thanks for listening. Until next time, go watch a new movie.
Or enjoy an old one.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Cine-Siblings podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Cine-Siblings Pod.